Welcome to Dark Side of History channel, where the untold stories of the past come to life. So don't forget to subscribe and uncover the mysteries with us.
Young Stalin, Revolutionary Period. Future Soviet leader Joseph Stalin was photographed as a young Bolshevik activist during the Russian Revolution period in 1917. This image showed Stalin before he became the powerful dictator who would rule the Soviet Union for decades. His revolutionary activities helped overthrow the Tsar and establish communist rule in Russia. Soviet shame boards, public humiliation. Public panels exposed people whose behavior contradicted state ideological norms in the Soviet Union during the 1930s. These shame boards listed the names and crimes of people who violated Communist Party rules or social expectations. The public humiliation system showed how totalitarian governments used social pressure and embarrassment to control citizen behavior. Trump Moscow business invitation. 41-year-old real estate developer Donald Trump was invited to Moscow by Soviet Ambassador Yuri Dubinin in July 1987. This business meeting represented early connections between the future U.S. president and Soviet officials during the final years of the Cold War. The Moscow invitation showed how business relationships sometimes crossed political boundaries during tense international periods. Howard University Law Historic Graduation. African American students completed their law studies at Howard University in 1800, graduating from an institution founded after the Civil War to educate freed slaves. This historically black university provided higher education opportunities when most other colleges excluded African American students. The law graduation showed how education could provide pathways to professional success despite racial discrimination. JFK Jackie engagement photography. Senator John Kennedy and his fiancée, Jackie, were photographed during their engagement period in 1953, before their famous wedding and political careers. This romantic moment captured the future president and First Lady before they became one of America's most glamorous political couples. Their engagement represented the beginning of a partnership that would captivate the American public. Early IBM computer manual assembly. An engineer connected thousands of manual components in a room-sized IBM computer system in 1958 during the early days of electronic computing. These massive machines required careful hand wiring of thousands of connections to perform calculations that seem simple today. The computer assembly showed how much human labor was needed to create the first electronic computers. Washington, D.C. Civil War development. The city development in 1863 showed Trinity Episcopal Church and the unfinished Capitol building during Washington, D.C.'s growth during the Civil War. The capital city was still under construction while serving as the center of Union government during the nation's greatest crisis. The development view showed how the city grew even during wartime to accommodate expanding government needs. Boston Tea Party historical remnants. Dorchester Neck residents found tea chest fragments on the morning of December 17, 1773, after the famous Boston Tea Party protests the night before. These physical remnants provided evidence of the colonists' bold act of defiance against British taxation without representation. The tea fragments showed how ordinary citizens became part of the events that led to American independence. Venice Beach, oil industrial landscape. The Los Angeles landscape featured numerous oil extraction derricks and industrial structures in Venice Beach during 1931. These oil wells provided the petroleum needed for California's growing automobile culture, but changed the natural beach environment. The oil derricks showed how industrial development transformed scenic coastal areas during America's industrial expansion. Italian Fiat family vacation preparation. A family prepared for summer travel in their popular small Fiat 500 European car in 1967. This affordable automobile made vacation travel possible for middle-class families across Europe during the post-war economic boom. The family vacation preparation showed how cars gave ordinary people the freedom to explore their countries and enjoy leisure travel. Brasilia Capital Construction Innovation. Brazil's new interior capital city of Brasilia was under construction in 1960 to promote inland development and create a modern government center. This ambitious urban planning project moved the capital away from coastal Rio de Janeiro to encourage settlement of Brazil's vast interior. The construction showed how governments could use architecture and city planning to achieve political and economic goals. Paris catacombs, underground tourism. A tourist held a candle while smiling among the large skull collection in the Paris catacombs underground cemetery in 1935. These ancient burial tunnels contain the remains of millions of Parisians and attracted visitors fascinated by death and history. The catacomb visit showed how dark tourism allowed people to explore unusual and macabre historical sites. Positano, Amalfi Coast tourism appeal. The Amalfi Coast destination of Positano featured colorful hillside houses and calm Mediterranean Sea that attracted tourists in 1959. This beautiful Italian coastal town became a popular vacation spot for people seeking scenic beauty and relaxing beach holidays. The tourism appeal showed how natural beauty and charming architecture could create successful vacation destinations. World War I tank homing pigeon communication. A homing pigeon was released from a British tank during the Battle of Amiens on August 9, 1918, for military communication purposes. These trained birds carried messages between battlefield units when radio communication was unreliable or dangerous. The tank pigeon showed how military forces used animals and technology together to solve communication challenges during warfare. Future office technology concept. Technological workplace innovations, including personal computers and fax machines, were demonstrated in a 1982 future office concept design. These predictions about office automation and electronic communication proved remarkably accurate as computers transformed business operations. The office concept showed how designers tried to predict how technology would change the way people worked. Soviet-American airmen wartime cooperation. A joint photograph at a Russian airbase showed Soviet and American airmen cooperating during World War II on June 2, 1944. These Allied pilots worked together despite political differences to defeat Nazi Germany during the war. The cooperation photograph showed how shared enemies could bring together countries with very different political systems. Norway German weapons collection storage. Sola Airfield in Norway stored 30,000 collected German rifles and weapons after the surrender in 1945. This massive weapons depot showed the enormous amount of military equipment that had to be secured and disposed of after Germany's defeat. The weapon storage represented the practical challenges of dealing with defeated armies and their equipment. Azores Portuguese traditional hooded capes. Traditional capotes, hooded capes, were worn by women on São Miguel and Terceira Islands in the Portuguese Azores archipelago. These practical garments provided protection from Atlantic weather while maintaining cultural traditions that connected the islands to Portuguese heritage. The hooded capes showed how clothing adapted to local climate while preserving cultural identity. French soldiers' military dog companion. French troops marched behind a dog dressed in military attire during World War I in 1915. This military mascot provided companionship and morale support for soldiers facing the dangers and loneliness of trench warfare. The dressed-up dog showed how armies used animals to maintain soldier morale during the psychological stress of combat. Spanish Egyptologist mummy discovery. Eduardo Toda Güell posed with mummies at the Boulac Museum in 1885 after discovering the ancient Senedjem tomb in Egypt. The Spanish archaeologist contributed to Egyptology by finding and preserving ancient artifacts that helped people understand ancient Egyptian civilization. The mummy discovery showed how international scholars worked together to unlock the secrets of ancient history. Istanbul kebab vendor cat community. A street food seller was surrounded by respected city cats while operating his kebab stand in Istanbul, Turkey in 1952. These neighborhood cats were considered part of the community and were fed and cared for by local business owners. The vendor and cats showed the special relationship between Turkish people and the street cats that are considered part of city life. World War II female factory industrial production. Women took on important industrial production roles in factories during World War II in 1943 when men were fighting overseas. These female workers manufactured weapons, vehicles, and supplies needed for the war effort while proving that women could handle traditionally male jobs. The factory work showed how war changed social attitudes about women's capabilities and workplace roles. Japanese mother-son traditional portrait. A formal family photograph showed a Japanese mother and son wearing kimono during the transition from the Edo to Meiji period in 1866. This portrait captured a family during one of Japan's most important historical transitions, from isolation to modernization. The traditional clothing showed how families maintained cultural identity during periods of rapid social change. Charlie Chaplin, flower shopping kindness. Famous comedian Charlie Chaplin took money from his pocket to buy flowers at a shop in 1931, showing his generous and thoughtful personality. This simple act of kindness revealed the private character of the man who brought laughter to millions through his films. The flower shopping showed how celebrities could use their wealth to spread joy through small gestures. Piegan Native American cultural preservation. Aaron Brest and other Piegan Native American leaders worked to preserve indigenous North American traditions and customs during cultural suppression. These tribal leaders maintained their people's language, ceremonies, and way of life, despite government policies that tried to force assimilation. Their cultural preservation showed the determination of indigenous people to maintain their identity and heritage.